This will be the first video for BMAR211, Study Unit 3, Chapter 4, Understanding Consumers. Because Learning Outcome 3 is long, I will divide this chapter into 3 parts. So this will only cover Learning Outcome 1 and Learning Outcome 2. But first, let's get into the learning outcomes. So there are 6 learning outcomes in total, and again you will see the page numbers. First of all, describe the importance of using marketing research in understanding customers, distinguish between the different types of research organizations can undertake, briefly discuss the steps in the marketing research process, evaluate the various research methods and analytical tools organizations can use to understand customers, discuss how and why organizations would use social media to understand customers, and then lastly, consider the value of service complaints in social media as a means to understand customer needs. For learning outcome 1, you have to understand how marketing research can be used to understand customers. What is marketing research? Marketing research can be defined as a process of designing, collecting, analyzing, and reporting information that is used to solve a specific marketing problem, and we will get into examples shortly. Marketing research is mainly used by service organizations to collect information about the service customers require, as well as their needs, satisfaction, and loyalty levels. There's a reason that there are so many ads and questionnaires and interviews, many forms of marketing research taking place on a daily basis, from whether it's marketing consultancy organizations, the organizations themselves, to understand what their customers need. Now, you need to be able to justify the reason to conduct research for a specific case or scenario or information that they need. So there are several reasons that you have to describe in terms of justifying or a justification for market research. Now, first of all, research enables organizations to collect relevant information for a specific marketing objective or business problem, which can help them to make better marketing decisions. For example, News24, so it's a major network in South Africa, conducted research on its Women24 site using an online poll. The aim was to identify which topics women are interested in. This insight enabled Women24 to place relevant content on its website to draw more women to its online platform. Now, one day, if you're like me and you are looking for a new car, South Africa has no in-house or its own motor vehicle manufacturing brand. There isn't such a thing. They have to rely on imported vehicles, and you won't believe that even the cars that are introduced, for example, in the European market, are different from those models that actually reach the South African consumer market. But in South Africa, there's a gap as to the research or the information that is relevant that is available on specific cars. Maybe one day you can solve this problem, and for example, News24 can collect this relevant information by posting a poll on their Wheels 24 page to see what people are interested in reading. The timeliness of this information allows businesses to have accurate and up-to-date information to make marketing decisions. Back to my example of the cars. If they introduced a 1-liter turbo engine, they need to know if it's viable in the consumer market. So they need to make sure that they conduct their research, get customer feedback on the engine to see whether it's feasible to continue to produce and import these types of vehicles. If people keep on trading these vehicles in and it's not successful, they need to make sure they have accurate and up-to-date information to solve this marketing problem. Also, research can be used to collect information for a specific situation. The way research can be adapted to meet specific organizational objectives and needs is particularly valuable. Lastly, and most importantly, it allows organizations to understand customers in terms of their needs, expectations, perceptions, and satisfaction levels. You will see the example of First National Bank in the textbook, and the insights obtained from research allow organizations to develop marketing strategies that attract and retain customers based on customer needs. If you don't continue or conduct research on a continuous basis based on your customer satisfaction, whether you are meeting your customers' expectations, then you might actually lose some of your customers to competitors who are conducting research and making sure that they adhere to their customers' satisfaction levels and expectation levels. For the second learning outcome, we will refer to two broad or main types of marketing research. Now, when conducting marketing research to understand customers, service organizations can either use quantitative or qualitative research. For the purpose of this learning outcome, you only need to know the difference. So you need to identify the main types and know the difference between these two types, and it's very easy. First, let's have a look at quantitative. Quantitative research refers to the collection of numerical data, which can be used when making specific decisions. Again, back to News 24, they established that they have over 100,000 active users per month on their Android smartphone app. Another example can be Showmax Pro or Facebook, Twitter. Any platform can determine how many users they have per month. The emphasis on this way of collecting data is on numerical massive data. Qualitative research, on the other hand, refers to determining what people say and think about a topic based on the actual words used to describe the topic. For example, reading a customer's tweet about the poor service received from an organization. News 24 or Media 24 can go on their Facebook page and see what people are saying about them, and that will be qualitative. It has nothing to do with quantitative data or numerical data. This is in terms of perceptions and is usually smaller samples. This method gains deeper insight into a marketing problem from a smaller group of people and can be used for more detailed quantitative research. Usually, you have a small group of people to investigate the possibility of collecting some data. And before you go on a large scale search for specific information, you have to tweak your questions or your focus area, and then you use a smaller group to get that detailed information that you need to gather, and then only do you go to a larger group and collect large scale numerical data. On the screen, you will see a video that explains qualitative and quantitative data or research. The link will be on iFundi underneath this first part of this video. I will not play it on this presentation, so if you want to understand, this person explains it quite nicely. So make sure you watch the video to understand the different types of marketing research. Also make sure you watch part 2. Next, we will jump into learning outcome 3. This deals with the marketing research process, and you need to be able to briefly describe and understand each of the 5 steps. Just a disclaimer, this textbook refers to 5 steps. On the internet or other textbooks or sources, there are up to 9 steps. But for the purpose of this module, let's focus on these 5 steps. On the slide, you will see a video about Coca-Cola Life. This is an exact research process that they followed to end up with this product on the shelf. Now, as we progress through the steps, there will be other examples, but I will try my best to refer to this real-life example so that you can understand how they went through all of the steps to get to the end product on the shelf. Again, the video will be linked on the iFundi site. Defining the problem is step 1, and this is the most important step. Why? If you incorrectly define your problem or the problem statement, you will obtain invalid information, and this will lead to incorrect conclusions and inappropriate marketing decisions. If you watched the Coca-Cola video, if they had the definition of the problem wrong, they might have ended with flavored water instead of a lifestyle alternative to their current Coke products. Now, what is a research problem? Organizations must first identify the problem that they want to investigate. Coke, for example, wanted to find out, is there a gap in the market for a specific carbonated drink in terms of a line extension for the existing Coke product? That is what the problem that they identified is. There's a need for a carbonated drink tasting like Coke that does not use artificial sweetness, but a natural product. So that's a problem. There's not a product like that. Now you have the problem. So you have to set specific research objectives. And the research objectives always boils down from the research problem. Those are interlinked. You cannot have unrelated objectives for your problem. It will directly be determined by your problem. Objectives must be formulated in such a manner that if they are realized, they will address or solve the research problem. Let's look at another example. First National Bank wants to determine whether their users are satisfied with their social media approach, or a bank trying to understand why it is losing market share to, for example, Capitec, Nedbank, or Absa. or even now digital banks like Time Bank. The objectives that they formulated in terms of this problem was firstly, identify which social media platforms F&B customers use. First, you need to identify which social media platforms the customers are actually using. Otherwise, how will you determine whether they are satisfied? A second possible objective, determine whether F&B customers engage with other organizations on social media platforms, and then identify whether F&B customers are receptive to marketing messages distributed through social media platforms. Now that that's done, we move to step 2. Now you need to develop a research plan. So first you have your problem and you have your objectives. Now you need a plan. A research plan calls for a decision on which type of research design will be used to collect your required data. There are 3 main types of research designs, and this is exploratory, causal, or descriptive. If you progress with your studies, you can focus and understand these types, but for the purpose of this module, we will have a brief overview of them. The choice between these 3 types of research designs will depend on the nature of the research problem to be solved. The first one is exploratory research, and as the name suggests, it is very exploratory. It refers to informal research that is done to gain a better understanding of the research problem, often at the beginning of a research process. For exploratory research, you can use the following methods. The first one is a secondary data analysis, and this entails finding information that already exists on the problem. F&B, for example, could source information that has already been published on customers' use of social media, which platforms they most likely use, probably Facebook, Instagram, more professional individuals, LinkedIn, and so forth, so they can review that information. The Coke example, to get to their product, they can, for example, go through all of the existing products that use artificial sweeteners. Next, you can also use experience surveys, and these are conducted when researchers collect information from others who have expert knowledge on the research problem. Then lastly, focus groups. This is a popular qualitative research method in which the researcher interviews a small group of people, usually between 8 and 10 people, in the form of an open discussion on the research problem. So again, Coke can have a call to action for people to gather or have a meeting or a group where they can find out, do you know of any natural sweetened products? Are you interested in that? And so forth. And then also F&B can do the same, where they can find out, who are you banking with? Are you satisfied with our social media? Next is a causal research design, and this is easy to remember because if you hit someone, it causes them to cry. This is the relationship between 2 variables, a cause and effect by means of experiments, or A/B testing to see whether a change in one variable, which is the dependent, causes a change in another variable, the independent. So this is very easy to find on the internet. An example of A/B testing: a company can run the same campaign, and their call to action button for one ad, which is A, can be red, and the next ad it can be green, and then they can see which ad has more clicks to the call to action, for example, book now or call now or message us. And then they do a test to see, okay, the red has caused people to act more to the ad or the other way around. Then lastly, the most popular or most used research design is descriptive research design. And this is, sorry for the typo, often undertaken in marketing as it identifies the who, what, where, when, and how. This type of research design is usually quantitative in nature, as it collects specific data about customers and the research problem. Do not make the mistake, if you draw up your research process and you want to collect data for a specific problem, you choose descriptive research design and then you follow qualitative. So it's usually and mostly it's quantitative, focusing on big data so that you can identify who is interested in your product, what are they looking for, where are they shopping, for example, when do they shop, and how do they shop, online or in retail outlets. That was step 2. Moving to step 3, this is the data collection phase, or collecting the relevant information. It's the same thing. So now you collect your data. Collecting the data has 5 phases that you can see on the screen. So first of all, collecting secondary and primary information, data collection methods, again, qualitative versus quantitative, then develop a research instrument, sampling, probability versus non-probability, and fieldwork. Let's have a look at these 5 phases. Okay, primary and secondary information. Secondary information, as we already mentioned, refers to information that has already been published on the research problem. So it's already available. It's a Google search, it's a journal article search, it's a newspaper search. Any findings of that sort, that's secondary information. It's already collected. Primary information, on the other hand, refers to information that is collected fresh for specific marketing problems. So this is first-hand information. It does not exist. So that's the difference between that. So now you need to decide, okay, the problem is of such a nature, I can review a lot of data, or I need to collect this because the information isn't available. Then next, how will you collect your data? So you need to decide between qualitative. So how do you get qualitative data? All of this is covered on page 102. So make sure you read through all of these descriptions and know the difference and be able to suggest one of these methods that will best suit a specific scenario in a case study. To get quantitative data, on the other hand, we refer to three main methods, all of them being surveys. It's a bit cut off, but researchers may decide on using a mixed mode method where they use a combination of the above methods. First, you can observe, draft your questions, and provide a survey. Whichever method you are using to collect your data, you need the research instrument. So if it's an interview, you need the interview guide, so the list of questions, or as you can hopefully see, you need a questionnaire, and that's what is referred to as the research instrument. So it's a tool that will be used to collect the raw data, such as a questionnaire for a survey, or a discussion guide for a focus group, or an in-depth interview. It is important that the measuring instrument will generate data directly related to the research problem and objectives, and that the participant can understand what is being asked and has the ability to answer the questions. Once you have your instrument, you will find your sample. Usually you already have your sample in mind, but to get a sample, you can use either probability sampling or non-probability sampling. Overall, a sample is a subset or group of the population. Students, for example, is a sample. Corporate individuals is, for example, a sample. There are several different types of samples, depends on how you define it. Just know the difference between probability, non-probability, and all of the subsequent methods or techniques under each. For probability, every person in the sample has an equal chance of being selected to participate in the research study. So everyone has a chance. You can use simple random sampling, systematic sampling, cluster sampling, and stratified sampling. Even if you don't have the textbook, you can easily Google these four terms and you will see exactly what they mean. So I won't go into detail. Make sure you review these four techniques. Non-probability, on the other hand, people in this sample have been selected based on convenience considerations or due to the judgment of the researcher on the appropriateness of the respondent's knowledge or experience. There are also four techniques that you can use in terms of getting a non-probability sample, also refer to how these work. The last phase, now you have your sample, you have your instrument, you have everything in place. Now you need to conduct fieldwork. This is the process of distributing the measuring instrument to the sample selected in the previous phases. Whether it's a computer administered, you will send it out to the contacts that need to complete it. You will create a call to action on social media sites. You will go to the university to distribute the questionnaires and so forth. During this phase, it is important to select and to train your field workers to ensure that quality of data is not compromised. The ethical side of research is very stringent. In some cases, the researcher, like myself, we are not permitted to collect the data ourselves to make sure it's not coerced or compromised. In that case, we need to train and appoint field workers, and we need to make sure they also follow this ethic of care and don't coerce or fill in the questionnaires themselves. Step 4. Now you collected all of your data, whether it was the interviews and now it's being transcribed, whether it's projective technique, whether it's your questionnaire. Now you need to analyze your data and formulate your findings. In some research processes, this is two separate phases, but let's stick to one. During step 4 of the marketing research process, the researcher conducts statistical analysis on the data collected in the previous step and develops findings. If you are following a quantitative design, you will have many questionnaires, and either you can pay a statistician to do this for you. It's a lot of work. You have, for example, 400 or 500 paper questionnaires or digital questionnaires, and you have to assign a code to all of the questions and responses. You have to import that to your stats program like SPSS, and then the program can work out a lot of things so that you can formulate your findings. The results from the statistical analysis provides the researcher with information that can be used to solve a research problem. F&B can note that people are not using Facebook, and this is where they post mostly. Now they have the results on the stats program, and now they can change to the one that they indicated that they use. Okay, they're using LinkedIn. Let's reach them there rather. Coke realized that yes, there's a need for this healthy alternative using a natural plant derivative in terms of sweetener. And then there's definitely a market for it. For example, they can determine the attitude towards this product on a Likert scale that we refer to in Unit 2. And then they can solve their problem that yes, there's a need and yes, it will be successful. The last step, now you have to generate a research report. If you are a research consultancy business and you are outsourced by a company, the company has paid you to conduct research for them, and now you have to generate a report so that they know what is next, what can they do in terms of recommendation. So based on the empirical findings, the researcher should now be in a position to develop this report and with specific recommendations that can be made to address the problem. If it wasn't successful, then also there's room to suggest how the current marketing strategy needs to be adjusted. And those are the 5 steps. This is figure 4.1 on page 99. Make sure you can follow this research process. You will certainly practice this in the activity. And then if you are not sure on how this process works, you know to get in touch. Moving on to learning outcome 4 and 5. These two learning outcomes fall together, as you will also see in the normal slides. This refers to the research methods that you can use to understand your potential customers, existing customers, prospects for that matter, and this is shortly referred to as analytical tools. First, we refer to cell phone surveys, then Google Analytics, and then social media. For cell phone surveys, research organizations wish to understand their customers and their behavior, and they can do this by using the customer's cell phone as a research tool. This type of research is mainly used to measure customer satisfaction and behavioral intent. So I will get to the example shortly, and then you can understand how this is used for a specific company to see whether there's an interest or a specific use in their company or interest in their product. This way of research enables a service provider or service organization to reach a wide range of customers, especially those in the emerging markets, very cheap and very quick. Make sure you refer to the following company, Jopol. This is an SMS survey solution operating on a wide scale in South Africa, and you can choose your market in terms of their income. If they have low income, you're still able to use this service. It will just cost you money and not the person that you require the information from, and that's a bonus. On the screen you will see a short video. It again will be linked on Ifundi. I'm going to play a short piece of it so that you can see how cell phone surveys work. This video provides a clear illustration of how effective and efficient cell phone surveys can be to collect data immediately. Once people are incentivized to complete the following survey, if you complete it, you will receive this and this and this. So if people get something out of it, they are more likely to complete your cell phone survey. Another very effective tool if you are aiming to move into business or becoming a marketing consultant or marketing manager for an organization is Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a research tool that service organizations can use to measure what customers are saying about the service provider online. This is such an underrated statement. If you understand how Google Analytics work and you can manage your website and your business effectively to increase or enhance or maximize your outputs, then you can become successful guaranteed. This is a typical dashboard of Google Analytics for your website, your business website. Now, let's pretend you are selling apparel. On the left, starting on the left, it's countries. So if your site is international, you can see that you have, for example, let's be hypothetical here, just under 2,000 people from United States moving down and so forth. That's the data that you can get from that. So you get your international exposure to your brand. In the last 14 days in the middle, you will see that you've had 5,000, almost 5,400 users on your site. There were also over 9,000 sessions in the last 2 weeks, meaning it's up by 501 a day. In other words, a session is every time someone comes onto your website. If you go down, demographics is very, very, very important. You will see that in terms of cohorts or age cohorts, 18 to 24, usually that's the student population. They aren't interested in international apparel. Okay, let's ignore them. Let's don't have specials for them. But age 25 to 34, usually done with a degree, first job, more disposable income. Yes, let's focus on them. I don't want to guess, but usually they will say blue is male and or orange is female. Then you know, okay, males age 25 to 34, and we need to focus on males in that cohort or that segment. Now on Facebook, which we will get to shortly, you can tailor your ad specifically for that demographic. Then devices is also super, super important because you have to set up your website for the platform or device people are using. Now you will see that 76%, that's the majority obviously, uses a desktop. So you need a desktop friendly site. If it was mobile, for example, then you need to consider data, signal, and network and so forth. So you can't use massive graphics and then your website takes forever to load and people bounce. You will also see on top in the second line, you can refer to your website traffic, locations, metrics, traffic channels, breakdowns, and so forth. Moving on from the slide, there is a video. Again, I will link this, and this explains with dummy data how Google Analytics work. So if you're interested in knowing how this works, be sure to watch that video. Next is social media. So social media is an analytical tool, but it's also a learning outcome in its own right. So how can you use social media to understand your customers? Now, we all know this because we are Generation Y and we like to express our opinions of our experiences as well as engage in word of mouth communication using various social media platforms. There was an ad for a specific car on Facebook and there are 1,600 comments because people like to express their opinion, whether it's good or bad. Now, you as a service organization need to be wary of what customers are saying about your service on these social media platforms, but you will also get insights to your customer experiences. Now, analytical techniques and social media platforms, you need to have real-time response. If people are saying something bad, even if it's true, you have to make sure you deal with it. A company that's really doing well in this regard is Suzuki or We Buy Cars. They respond to each and every comment, even if it's almost 2,000 comments. And that is what you need to do. So that is also why there are dedicated positions for a digital and social media marketer, because that person deals with that on a daily basis. Why do you need to use social media? So reasons for using social media as a research tool. So first of all, it's cost effective. It's way cheaper than print media or conducting in-depth research because people willingly provide their opinions. Whereas if you have to conduct research, you need to incentivize and it's a nuisance, it costs money. With social media, it's very cost effective. You can also identify current trends. So let's take at this Discovery SA example. A current trend, most people on the road have insurance, those who can afford it. But now with loyalty, service organizations are trying to reward their customers in some way or another. So that is a current trend, is rewarding your customer. So Discovery in this case, reward their customers with 800 Rand fuel cash back per month for driving neatly, or driving well. First of all, they encourage people to drive responsibly on the roads and then they get rewarded for that. But again, you need to be a Discovery insured person. Now, if discovery goes into the comment sections, the 52 comments, they can also read what is happening in terms of the trends. Do people actually like this? Are they laughing at them? And will this be successful? Next, you can also identify your competitors' actions. So if you are My Way, King Prize, iWise, Old Mutual, now you can see that Discovery has this on offer. And then they can go back to the drawing board and find another way to reward their loyal customers. What are the social media research tools that we can use? First and broadly, there are two main research methods, and that's interactive social media research or observational social media research. The first one, interactive, entails the use of surveys or focus groups conducted through Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. All of these sites has a video function, so it's very easy to do and conduct. It's also very easy to distribute a survey on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. With observational social media, though, this is when organizations conduct research based on what can be observed without direct interaction with the consumer, and this is done by reading and analyzing consumer blogs, joining consumer forums, and reading customer tweets, but also comments. If we go back to the Discovery example, if you click on the comment section, Discovery can already observe what people are saying about this offer. The first one is Facebook as a tool. I believe most of us have Facebook, a profile, or know of someone with a profile. And if you have gone through Facebook or if you are familiar with this platform, you will know that there are several Facebook groups, there are Facebook pages, and also Facebook ads. With groups, researchers have real-time communication with the customers. If you are looking for information about insurance companies, then you can join a group and see what people are saying there. Same with pages. And they can also have their own Facebook page and see how many people react or like their page and how they react to their specific posts on their page. And then Facebook ads, which is the most vital part of using Facebook. For an organization, a prerequisite for Facebook ads is you need a Facebook page. You cannot post with your personal page. If we link it back to the Google Analytics, and if it was clear that people mostly use Facebook on desktop, and we see for the online apparel, it was mostly males between 25 and 34. We can tailor our apparel ad to males of that segment. Also, let's focus on US males 25 to 34 that use a desktop. And that's exactly what you can do with analytics. But then again, your Facebook ad post also has its own in-house analytics. If you start out with a fresh company, say you are a marketing consultant, which is a service, you have your marketing consultant page, which hopefully looks nice and dandy. You create a post or an advertisement where you advertise your services, what you do. You just post it to the entire South Africa, pay 10 Rand a day for 14 days. After 14 days, you will have clear analytics of who you should focus your advertising bucks on. Next is Twitter. Researchers can use mentions, retweets, searches, hashtags, and so forth, and they can, in that way, establish trends and identify what customers are tweeting. Cloud.com for a while has been the analytic part that monitors the Twitter influence, and that way you can also determine your audience. Next is LinkedIn. This is more for the corporate audience, for the business to business market. And again, on LinkedIn, you have groups. You can post a question with LinkedIn answers, and then if you ask a specific question, for example, which social media site are you most likely to use, then Discovery can take the answers because mostly it's public, and then if it's Facebook, yes, now they have a Facebook ad. And then also LinkedIn ads. But if you are an informal, you sell Skambani next to campus, LinkedIn isn't the appropriate platform. Rather use Facebook or have a nice flyer next to campus. So you need to make sure whatever your company or your service that you offer, it's appropriate in terms of the research tool that you use. If you know that your customers are not corporates, you will not use LinkedIn and waste your money. There are also other tools that you can use, and this is only a list of them. You have to make sure you refer to page 110 to 111 to understand what is business intelligence, social media monitoring, engagement, relationship management, which is very important, social media specialized, and then also social media content management. The last learning outcome, you have to understand complaint behavior on social media. Yes, as much as we like to brag or share or engage in certain posts, we also do like on the occasion to complain. If you go on Facebook and you search for DSTV, you search Telkom, you search Eskom, you can see just a massive swimming pool, maybe a river, because it's never ending. What are the main reasons why customers engage in online complaint behavior? If you think for yourself, why do you complain? First of all, I'm not happy. I didn't get what I paid for. Wasted my money. I was misinformed. All of those reasons are true and valid. But for the most part, these are the main reasons. Firstly, customers have not had their complaints resolved using traditional methods. You had an issue with your internet connection from Telkom. Happens all the time. You log a call, you phone the shop, you wait for the call to be resolved, and this just doesn't happen. And then you will see a lot of similar posts not responding and so forth. Customers expect a quick response. If I have an issue with my internet, besides not being able to record this video, it is annoying. We pay a lot of money for internet and we expect to complain and have the problem solved quickly, or at least have a quick response from the service organization. But this doesn't always happen. Then we take to social media and we complain. As customers, we also expect social care. This refers to the fact that customers expect high levels of customer service through social media. This implies that customers have high expectations of the reliability and responsiveness when it comes to complaints or messages posted on social media sites, and that these cannot be ignored. It's not going to do you any good having an established company, or any company for that matter, whether it's a startup, have various social media sites and not be present or responsive on those sites. That is the worst thing that you can do. If you do not get resolve on social media sites, and I've done this before, there are 3 online websites that provide customers with the opportunity to lodge official, non-official complaints, and these are active in South Africa. So hellopizza.com, Get Closure, or Bad Service South Africa. My best advice to you, if you are considering a new service provider, whether it's for internet, transport, moving, anything like that, go to these sites first to see what other people have said about this company. Just consider that some of the incidents might be isolated. Then again, you will see the summary. We've covered a lot of topics in this 3-part mini series of Study Unit 3. Should you have any questions or if anything is unclear, please make sure to contact me.